I've been living in a blue zone for 2 years, and here are some of the reasons why I think the locals live a longer and happier life. I know there's a documentary on Netflix right now about blue zones. I haven't watched it yet. I really want to, but these are just things that I've observed and experienced while living here. The first thing that I think stands out to me is their ability to express and feel deep gratitude for even the smallest things. They don't say thank God like we do in the States. Like, when something gets canceled and I didn't want to go, I'll be like, oh, thank God. They wouldn't ever use it in that way. When they say thank God, they really, really mean it, and they only use it when they do mean it. A lot of the time when I ask, for instance, my boyfriend's family how they're doing, they respond to me by saying, todo bien, gracias a Dios. And they genuinely mean like, thanks to God, thank God I'm okay. Which sort of goes into another reason why I believe they live longer and happier lives, is that they have unwavering faith in a lot of the times God here, but I find that a lot of people closer to my age just have a relationship with a higher power. My boyfriend, for instance, doesn't necessarily go to church, but he prays and has a lot of faith that there is something greater. Another phrase that they use here a lot is si Dios quiere, which means if God wants. So a lot of the time, again, when I'm talking to them or we're talking about something in the future, like, oh, you guys are headed out tomorrow, si Dios quiere. You guys are leaving if God wants, like if God wants it for you. There's just this like faith, which I think makes them less stressed, because they feel like a lot of the burden that we carry as humans is in the hands of something else, which I think contributes to less stress. I definitely don't think that they have less to be stressed about. I think that they have the same amount of stress. They just deal with it differently and have faith in something else, and that helps them live in peace. The second thing that stands out to me is community. Not only are Ticos in general extremely kind, it's like so obvious to them to help one another. If somebody is broken down on the side of the road, without a doubt, somebody will stop and help them. Like, it's not even a question. One time I was driving my motorcycle and it broke down on the side of the road, and within a couple of minutes, this man who was selling shrimp out of a metal bowl stopped. He pulled over, he handed me his bowl of shrimp, and he kickstarted the living hell out of my motorcycle for like 20 minutes while I was standing there with his shrimp. He took the time out of his day to help me, and then he drove it around to get the engine going, and he fixed my motorcycle right then and there, and then he grabbed the shrimp and he went on his merry way. This was his bowl of shrimp, and this man is an icon to me. But this gesture is not at all rare. I probably can't even count on my fingers how many times somebody has helped me, a stranger has helped me on the side of the road with my motorcycle or something else. Along with community is sort of this sense of like non-attachment. They help each other with non-attachment. Like, and okay, this might just be my boyfriend and his family, but I see other people do it as well. They'll really quickly like lend people money, and people sort of just like lend each other things really loosely. There's not this like attachment to physical belongings or even money, and they also have the trust that it will be reciprocated or returned in some way. So I think that that's like amazing, and I don't know, again, I haven't watched the Netflix series. I don't know if they talk about that, or again, if it's just like the people that I've seen, but I do see that a lot here, and I think that that has to be important, like to have this sense of non-attachment, because again, I think that that in the long run makes them less stressed. Now, I know that diet is said to be a really big part of why people live longer in blue zones, and I think that there has to be truth to that, but I also think that they have a better mentality around food. I'm an intuitive eating counselor and help people recover their relationship with food and find peace with food. So I feel like this has been a really interesting thing to observe and pick apart for myself. But I think that yes, maybe they are consuming more things like beans, which are subjectively very healthy and good for your being. But they also do consume processed foods here. They consume Coca-Cola and sugar and coffee and things that maybe are quote unquote not as good for you, not as nutritious necessarily. But they don't have this like connotation around those foods that people, I think, in the US do. There's no, I think from what I observed, there's less shame around eating specific types of foods. It's just more accepted. Like, your body is just your body. And they do use words like fat, like skinny, really out in the open. But that's because those words don't really have negative connotation around them. It's just sort of like a descriptive word. Whereas in the US, if you call somebody fat, that is like a bad thing to say. Whereas here, it's not bad to be fat. It's just, it is what it is. So I think that that's really interesting. I honestly want to make a few parts to this because I think there's so much more to it, and I want to have my boyfriend Pablo come talk about why he thinks people live longer here. But those are just a few that come to mind when I think about blue zones. And I hope this inspires you to adopt some of these things into your own life. I don't think that you have to live in a blue zone to live like you're in a blue zone.